Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the panel discussion for What's in Your Liberty Outreach Toolbox. Bless you. Today we're talking about tools that we can use to communicate the message of liberty and the benefits of liberty to everyone. And Thomas Jefferson said that it's the natural progress of things for liberty to yield and for government to gain ground. And that's a problem for us. That's our challenge, right? Is that we need to resist the government getting bigger, 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 as it does. And because we're libertarians, we can't force people, right? We can't force people into liberty. We have to communicate with people. We have to persuade them of the benefits of liberty. So what we have here today are 5 terrific panelists who each have a specialty area of communications. And what we'd like them to do is share with us some of their learnings, some of the ways that we can all benefit from using these various tools. We put them in our toolbox, and we'll be able to take them out and use them to help us all communicate liberty. So our first panelist today is Diana Vicek. And Diana has shown her libertarian leadership skills at the chapter level, the state level, and at the national level. She's had particular success, however, in getting libertarian ideas in the papers. So she's going to be talking to us today about print media. And Diana, I'm just going to go run down each panelist, and then
right now?
Yeah, I'll introduce each one so you guys get an idea of who we have and what we're going to be talking about, and then we'll have each panelist give us a 5-minute-ish overview of their particular area, and then we'll be opening it up to the audience so that we can all have a general discussion about how can we start taking advantage of these different tools in our work as libertarians. So our second panelist is Jenny Floyd. Jenny is here to represent the visual arts. So not only does she do wonderful work in print media, like her terrific work on our convention program, but she's also been working extensively in video for us. She was working on those 3 wonderful videos. I'm not sure how many people saw them, but the wonderful videos for the petition drive where we taught people how to petition. Jenny worked extensively on those, and now she's been working a lot on those candidate videos that we saw last night. She's been working on those as well. So Jenny's going to be here talking to us about the visual arts. Our next panelist is Jim Goebel, and Jim has extensive experience on the radio, and as we saw this morning, he's been working for 4 years with the Side Project Live podcast, and so he's going to be talking to us a little bit about how we can get our word out through various audio ways. Thank you.
I'm also incredibly humble.
Good for you. Not to mention good looking.
We also have with us Andrew Weichel, and Andrew is our current Libertarian Party of Illinois webmaster, and he has his own website consulting business, so he's going to be able to share the knowledge and insights he's gained with how we can get our word out on the internet, particularly through websites. Our final panelist is Paul Clark, and that's, I think, the other side maybe of the internet, which is the social media area. So he's our social media director, and he's had extensive experience in social media, guerrilla marketing, and branding. So he's going to be talking to us about getting the word out on social media. So that's our panelists that we have for us today. And so what I'd like to do is just start with Diana, who's going to share with us print media.
Great. I have a handout for you. If you haven't gotten one, there's one on the table back there. And I also have a little brochure that my county chapter made called Don't Waste Your Vote. So you can get one of each of these. In terms of media, just as in all of life, there are trade-offs to be made. And my view is that in terms of media, depending on your strategy, the trade-offs have to do with ease of publication. What does it take to actually get in print or, in that medium, versus the size of the reach of the audience that you're going to achieve, and the composition, the demographic composition of that audience. Those are the main trade-offs. For newspapers, even though they are dropping in circulation right now, they still have very large circulations compared to most other forms of media. And they have the advantage that they reach the political class and they reach other people of influence. You're getting quality readers. And one of the reasons for that is because newspapers are expensive media. It costs a lot to put out a newspaper. There are barriers to entry. And because of that, the owners of the papers want to recoup their costs, of their expenses. They want to make sure that they have enough subscribers, advertisers, and readers to actually make the business go. And so they have editors and other people who do screening to make sure that the content is suitable and that the expression is appropriate. So it's harder to get in because there is this screening. There is a higher barrier to entry for publication, but the readers know that it has been screened, and therefore whatever it is that is in the paper is in general more worth reading. That's an advantage. And usually when I am going to spend the time to write something, I want to get it before people of influence. I want to get it in front of the political class because I want to promote change. I am not there doing it to preach to the choir. I'm not there to get something off my chest. I'm there actually to produce change. And so for me, newspapers are the medium of choice, and I am willing to invest the time and the energy that it takes to produce something of high enough quality that it will be printed. That's one of the trade-offs. An electronic medium, the little electrons are very cheap. You can get in very easily, but the readership is lower and the quality is dicey. It depends on what it is. Sometimes what people publish in electronic media seems to be a rant or vanity press. So that's a major trade-off, in my opinion. There are 4 possible communication opportunities. Can't be 5 minutes already. Is it 5 minutes already?
No, you got 2 minutes left.
Okay. So you're going to have to read the handout. I can't believe that 5 minutes have gone by.
Wait, I'm sorry. She has 5 minutes before she gets a yellow card.
Oh, I thought.
Right. I was going to say that's
She's
not.
got 2 more minutes left.
Okay, since I started talking. Okay. So there are 4 communications opportunities. There's letters to the editor, which are 250 to 300 words. Guest commentaries or op-eds, which tend to be 600 to 800. You can comment on blogs. And there's what I call managed reporting. That's my term, which basically means that due to your relationship with a political reporter, you can get them to report on topics that you find interesting. And I give you tips about how to make all of these work. One is to do your homework, and I list the various kinds of homework that you need to do. That is really, really important, to know what the rules are for whatever it is that you're trying to do, and to know the personnel that are involved. Then when it comes time to write, I tend to jot ideas down so that I have them sort of in my mind, but I wait to write until I feel the words going through my head, because that flow is very useful in terms of communicating clarity, passion, and other things that are important in print. Then the real secret is to edit heavily. You write freely, but then you edit heavily, and I mean heavily. Going through eliminating whatever it is that is unnecessary, making sure that your order is good, you check your facts, you check your spelling, you check your structure, you make sure you're within the word count for whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then you have somebody else read it. You don't send it off. You don't, pushing that send button is serious. So get somebody in your family, your local chapter, whoever, to read it before you send it, so that you know that you are communicating what it is that you intend to communicate. Because it can be crystal clear to you, but not to them. So that's important. Then I talk about using the word libertarian, and about some tips about increasing your chances for success. The 3rd page is an example of a letter that I got printed in January to show the ideas that you can get in there, the tips that you can use in just 250 pages. So I'm going to leave 250 words, sorry. So I'm going to leave that to you to read, because then I want to move on to another form of communication, which is our Don't Waste Your Vote brochure. My chapter did this. We were in some time pressure because we were doing it for some festivals that we were doing. Chris Madden, who was here, wrote the first draft. It was 700 words. I cut it down to 350. Our executive board reviewed it. We added more ideas. It got up to about 400 words. And then we added things about what libertarians stand for, our contact information, and we want to use this as a template for other pamphlets that we might do. I was a little horrified Thursday night as I was counting out the ones to bring here. I discovered, to my great shock, that somehow a sentence had been repeated in the essay part of this. And it was like, how could this possibly have happened? Because I spent a lot of time working with our designer on this. Somehow between design versions 5 and 6, the sentence got duplicated. And 6 was our last draft. And when I did the last look before I took it to the printer, I was looking for the things that needed to be changed from version 5. I didn't read the whole thing. That was my mistake. And so somehow this error had gotten introduced. I didn't catch it. The moral of the story is haste makes waste. And also, you can never be too neurotic about proofing things. Take it from me. Never, don't trust. Trust but verify. You know, really read before you take it to the printer. These, at a discount, cost us 24 cents a piece. Normally, because we have a friend who's doing it. If we'd taken it to Office Depot, it would have been 99 cents a piece. So it's serious when you start printing stuff like this. Make sure you like it before you press the print button. Thanks.
Thank you, Diana.
Hello. I have been working with visual media for a while now. My original degree track was web development and digital publishing, desktop publishing. Switched over to education when the dot-com bubble burst, but I still continue on in my education role in helping educate people about what we are and who we are and what we're doing. With visual media, how many of you, when you're bored, flip out your smartphone and start paging through Facebook and watching the videos your friends post? How many of you share videos when you see something cute or funny or timely? We all do it, and it's the easiest way to communicate a message. Everyone has heard or seen the video that's gone viral of the week, of the month, of the year, and before you know it, everyone's seen it. So it's a great way to get your message across, especially if you do it right. Now, when we do our video production, we go over with a fine-tooth comb. We're sitting there with Adobe's Publisher, Premiere, and we are working on it incessantly. An hour for every minute of that video is our norm. So you know, like if we're doing something 20 minutes long, you can imagine how long that's going to take us to do. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it either if you don't have the proper equipment or the proper tools. You don't need fancy equipment to produce video. You have a cell phone. You have a laptop. You're set. Almost every single cell phone now can shoot video. Every single laptop comes with a camera built into it. YouTube has a video editor built into their site now. Windows has Windows Movie Maker, which is free software that comes along with Windows that allows you to easily edit a movie, to chop together something simple. And if you're doing what we're doing, you can get it done very easily too. Some of the tips that we have, and you saw it in the videos we released last night, was very simple. Keep it short. Nobody wants to sit there and watch you ramble on for 5 or 6 minutes on your favorite topic. They'll listen to you for about a minute, but if you don't get to the point pretty quick, by that point they are going to leave you. So all of our videos were a minute or less. Another tip is to be aware of your surroundings. Don't shoot this video in your dirty bedroom with your stuff all scattered all over the floor behind you. Take yourself to the park, take yourself to a clean room with a nice clean, undistracting background so that they're focusing on you and your message rather than, is that a cat running around on the floor there? You know, because, I mean, let's face it, we're all distracted by the shinies. So, and prepare what you're going to say. Diana touched on that, right, when the flow is there, edit and be prepared. But at the same time, don't read your speech to the camera. They will see you looking down and back up or not looking at the camera. You're addressing your audience, and your audience is the camera. So to face into that camera and to speak distinctly and clearly. Don't ramble. If you find yourself rambling, stop. Start over. Digital media doesn't take up a lot of space as you're doing it. So, and you have practically unlimited space when you think about the size of your memory or hard drive. If you don't like it, delete it. Start over. Take time with it. Craft it. And don't put it up until you're proud of it. Like I said, we will reshoot. You can ask the candidates who came to our last candidate workshop where we shot those commercials. They will tell you that what we shot and what you saw last night are two entirely different things. Because we sat there and we shot and we shot and we shot, and we took what was good, what was the strongest, what had the fewest ums, ahs, and hitches, and we put that together and we crafted our message from there. So don't be afraid to keep plugging at it until you get to what you want on that particular video. And always keep your message in mind when you're getting ready to release it. Does what you say on there accurately convey what you want to get across? Then when you go to publish, there's a lot of different ways to get that out there in the market. And the two biggest ones, and one my friend Paula is going to be talking about real soon, is Facebook. Facebook and YouTube. The two biggest ways to broadcast your video are out there and exceptionally free to use for everyone. Millions and millions of people to see your video. The last is to promote it. Just because you put the video up there doesn't mean that instantly people are going to see this thing. Tell people about it. Tell your group, share it on your Facebook page, text your friends, tell them to tell your family, post it on your Facebook page. Don't be afraid to self-promote, and don't be afraid to be shameless about it. We're not. And you may see that, and don't be disappointed if people don't immediately jump upon it. It takes time. And when something goes viral, if you expect it to go viral, it's not going to. Just put it out there, get your message across, and the people who want to see it will see it. And if it takes off, well then, even better for you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Hey everyone, for those of you who were around here this morning, I've already introduced myself, so I'm not going to repeat that. No, I'm kidding. Jim Goebel, I run a podcast, Side Project Live, and Chris, God, my freaking memory, Jenny, right? Okay. Crystal? Jenny, okay, yeah. Yeah, you know what, maybe I should turn mine around so I can remember my name. There we go. All right, my name is, now I can't read it because of my glasses. No, she touched on something a little bit I was going to talk about, but in preparing for this talk, one of the things I was going to do was there are jokes about everyone, every group of people, every occupation, every politician, every country, everyone, how many chickens cross the road, whatever. And I just realized I had never actually ever heard of any jokes about podcasters or podcasting, and Lord knows that was a freaking search, because every time I would type in jokes about podcasting, I would get podcasts about jokes, and not jokes about podcasting, but I finally found one. I thought these were a couple of good ones here. How many podcasters does it take to change a light bulb? None. They're too busy making an hour-long show about how the bulb is out. And I love this one. What is the difference between a podcaster and a savings bond? Saving bonds matured. That's right. Doing a little research, I was actually looking for numbers of how many podcasts are out there, and as probably expected, there are really no set numbers because they're all over the place. The best I could find was some stats from iTunes, and the latest I could find for that was 2012. As of 2012, there are an estimated 115,000 English language podcasts on iTunes. And of that, there are an estimated 1,110 political shows. So, I mean, the field is glutted. And there are a lot of shows out there that are well known, that have tons of listeners. You got the people like Adam Carolla, Penn Jillette's got one, and then you got some more that are maybe another tier lower than that, and it's a really crowded field. But the one nice thing about podcasting is it's something that if you have a computer, or even really a laptop, you pretty much have everything you need to get started. You might want to eventually add some equipment down the line, maybe a nice headset. I mean, laptops already have the microphone in there. Maybe invest in a better microphone. But if you have a laptop, you got everything you basically need to get started. Microphone and headphones. You can just go to Best Buy. If you want something, you can get some really good ones for just like $20. I mean, it's not that horrible of an investment. You're going to need some audio editing software. If you got a Mac, I've already got GarageBand, which I've never used, but I understand is really good. And if you got a PC or if you got a Linux PC, there's software out there called Audacity, which is free. It's free, open source, and does Microsoft have it?
I'm getting you a new one.
Right? Oh. One thing to keep in mind for everyone, and I just saw this statistic the other day. Well, I guess it's not really a statistic, but there is one podcast I listen to, and it's called the Audacity to Podcast. It's actually about using the Audacity software in doing a podcast. And he estimated in his own experience that for every minute of recording, you're going to spend 4 minutes of tweaking the audio in post-production. So, if you're going to have like an hour-long podcast, you better have enough time to do all of the editing you need. Now, obviously, a lot of that is automated, but to help get some of that down, but create like a workflow, and then you stick to that, and then it'll make the process go faster. But and then probably the most important thing is you're going to need a podcast host. That's somewhere to host your show so that people can download it. Now, iTunes isn't a host. iTunes is a directory. Oh,
It's not going to cut out.
gotcha. iTunes is not a host. iTunes is a directory, but you need somewhere to actually host the files. There's some good ones out there, and they have any level of service from, say, free down to all the way up to like maybe $100 a month, depending on how many the file size and the number of downloads that it will handle and that sort of thing. But for most people, just anywhere from like the free to maybe a $10 a month subscription to the two services I have here are Blueberry and Podomatic. Podomatic is one I used to use. I got actually a deal right now with the network that runs the show live. Since I'm one of the live shows, they're letting me host for free. Look around, you might find a podcast network that will do that for you also. But the main thing is that nobody's going to listen to you if they can't find you. Number one thing to do is to try to get into the iTunes store. I can't remember where it is, but if you go to Apple's website and into the iTunes directory, there is a link, but you need to have your shows hosted first and have what is known as an RSS feed, which I believe stands for Really Simple Syndication. And then what will happen is that it will automatically update the iTunes store every time you upload a new episode. So once you sign up for it, as long as you got that file, I mean, this is a lot of technical stuff. I mean, you can when the conference is over, you can dig a little further in it, but there's only a few minutes and almost out of time here. But the main thing is to network, and Paul is going to touch on that in a moment. Social media is important. One thing I've done is to promote locally, and that is by putting up flyers and posters and whatever. A lot of your local businesses, supermarkets, hardware stores, diners, will have a community bulletin board. And I made posters with the little tear-off things like, lost dog, they have to say like, have you seen this dog? They have the phone number and a tear-off thing. I've created a bunch of those for my show, and I've posted those all over the community of Morris. But the most important thing is to listen to other podcasts. Every now and then you'll hear something that you might agree with or disagree with. and then contact the host of the show. Over the summer, I was listening to a show called The Bitch Spot Report, and they were talking down about libertarians. I contacted them. They had me on the show, and I've had them as repeat guests, and my audience has grown because of that. So, and I see I'm red now, so I'm going to move on here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, my name is Andrew Weichel. I'm the website director for the LP of Illinois. I like superheroes, In and Out, and WordPress. And WordPress, I'll be talking about here in a little bit. So my forte is websites. I work full-time, that's what I do. I work for a company called Woo Themes. We make themes and plugins for, our main plugin is WooCommerce. It's an e-store platform for websites. So I'm going to be talking about websites. A lot of people ask me, well, I am a small business owner. I have 2 employees, or I'm just running for alderman, or you know what, I'm just a guy who might have a few ideas about politics. Well, who needs a website? And my answer is everybody. I can't stress this enough. If you have a message that you want to communicate to people, you have to have a website. In this day and age, people are more likely to find you there than anywhere else because it's always there. They always have access to it. Anywhere that you have internet, you have access to your website. And it's how people have been trained to gather information over the past decade or so. If you ask someone, hey, what's this all about? Oh, I don't know. Go Google it, right? Everybody's heard that. So how are they going to find your information? It's the easiest and best way to direct press and the general public to get more information. Yeah, you can hand them a flyer. Yeah, you can hand them your business card, say, hey, call me. You can have videos, you can have all this stuff. But you know what? A website incorporates all of that. As well, it's always there. People don't have to go searching through their drawers to find a flyer or business card. They can punch your name into Google and find your website. And you can actually, if you have a well-done website, you can actually kind of bluff your way into thinking that you're actually bigger or have more money than you actually do, right? So it's a good way to present a good front for people if you're a candidate or if you're a chapter or if you're a blogger. Having a well-designed website is key. It establishes credibility. People, when they go to a site that looks childish, you instantly lose credibility. And the internet actually, one of the biggest things to me is that it levels the playing field for libertarians with the Democrats and the Republicans, because we all have the same opportunities that they do on the internet. Sure, they have a bigger audience than we do, but you know what? We can actually, you can do some black magic voodoo stuff on Google and get your articles ranking above them. Or, it levels the playing field in so many ways because, as Diana was mentioning in newspapers, well, yeah, we can get published, but it's harder for us because people want to hear from Democrats and Republicans, right? That's the establishment. Well, the barrier of entry in a website is a lot lower, and it's easier to get into. It doesn't take a fortune to get started on the internet. You can get started with any computer and a web browser. You don't need any special software, although that can come later. I have quite a few different pieces of specialized software, but in order to get started, you don't need any of that. We're in the communication business. That's what libertarians are about. Like Crystal mentioned in the introduction, we're all about communication, trying to convince people of our way of thinking. And this is one of the greatest tools that has come out in the past few decades. So I personally use WordPress. I'm sure quite a few of you have heard of that as a foundation for your website. There are other places out there that you can build your website. A lot of hosts offer it, like GoDaddy, or you can get through Squarespace or Weebly or whatever. But they actually, in the long run, they'll actually end up costing you more than getting a well-designed WordPress website. And they tend to look kind of blah. I'm not going to lie. It's actually better to have no website than a bad-looking website. And that's the one exception to the rule that I stated in the very beginning where everyone should have a website. If all you're going to do is put up garbage, don't have one. It's better. You have no impression instead of a bad impression. So a little bit of statistics. 73% of the Earth's population uses the internet. That's a lot of people. That's our market. 81% of consumers research products online before buying, and that's specifically relating to products. But if you think about it, we're actually a product. We're a commodity that we are selling. Our ideas and our candidates. So if you think about it, 81% of everybody who's bought something researches online. They may not buy it online, they research it. And people are going to look and they're going to find you online. If they hear your name, they're going to go home and Google you. Okay, what's Sharon Hansen about? What does she think? You know, I'm thinking of voting for Senate. 26% of, well, let's just skip that one because that's about shopping. We don't need to go there. Okay, if your site looks like it was designed by a barrel of colorblind monkeys, your chance of making a good impression is small. I don't care if you're a one-man show or a $10,000 or a 10,000 employee corporate giant. If you don't have a website, you're losing business to people that do. So if you are a candidate or a chapter, and I'm not perfect at this, my chapter doesn't have a website. It's not. I'm working on it. I promise you, I'm working on it. I'm working on the state one. So if you don't have a website, you're missing the potential traffic. Whether that's a really small community, whether that's a few hundred visits a month or a year even, or in a large community, you could have thousands of visits a year. You're missing that. And on your website, you get to control how you are portrayed as opposed to social media or print media, where sometimes you're casting out their light because people have their own voice, right? So on your website, you actually get to control how you're portrayed exactly how you would want it. And I am running out of time. Plug here, if you need to sell something online or take donations, WooCommerce, the company that I work for, it's a free plugin for WordPress, which is free software also, by the way. It enables you to take donations completely free. It doesn't cost you a dime if you're using PayPal or Simplified Commerce through MasterCard to take credit card payments. So it's completely free other than what they take. You know, PayPal takes a cut, MasterCard takes a cut. So WordPress is powerful. You can do just about anything that you can think of. I was talking with Brian about this earlier. You can extend it so far. There's millions of plugins that do specific things. So WordPress itself is a very basic software that allows you to publish pages. But the plugins are what's powerful. It doesn't take a genius to use WordPress. It's similar in difficulty to Word. If you can handle Word, you can probably handle editing content in WordPress. Use a .com in your domain. Don't get cutesy. Don't go .info. Don't go, .Andrew Michael. Don't do that. Make sure your site looks good on a mobile device because that's huge. It's having people look at your site on a phone or whatever. Get an email address that matches your domain. Andrew at andrewforpresident.com. Don't have on your business card, it's andrewmichael@gmail.com. It's fine for personal use, but if you want a unified front, get your domain name on your email address. You can get a huge return for your money. The money you spend on your website can actually generate so much more publicity than you could get otherwise. And then there are a ton of people that know about WordPress or just websites in general that can help you out. It's not as black magic as it used to be. It's fairly common that people know how to use website. Use backups. Don't test on a live site. That's all I have.
Thank you.
How many of you are on Facebook? Okay, how many of you know that you can use that for more than Candy Crush Saga? Good answer.
Smart one.
Okay, social media is a really interesting tool. It's imperfect. It's spotty on its reach, depending on what kind of effort you put into it. But it's free, it's fast. It can be customized and modified, coupled with so many other social media sites. You can create an entire campaign of just reaching people. Social media is incredibly versatile. It encompasses networking, publicity, public relations, marketing, advertising, and promotions, all in one source. You can't go wrong with social media. Well, you can. Yeah, you can. Okay, I gotta scrap the whole thing now. The thing about social media is it is imperfect. It is going to be whatever you put into it. Sorry.
They want to hear you.
Do you want to hear me?
Yeah.
No, social media is imperfect. It is only effective as the effort that you put into it. You have to be consistent. You have to be concise. You have to be tenacious, because you're going to encounter, it's the most direct means of talking to anybody short of picking up the phone. You're going to deal with, like we like to call trolls, where you have people who are trying to trip you up, trying to destroy your message by stepping in your way, confronting you with tough questions that you may or may not be prepared for. Notes. Sorry, I'm not a really good public speaker, so.
Go for it. We'll get you on Facebook.
Well, and see, that's why I hide behind Facebook, because it gives me time to think out responses. Okay, some of the biggest challenges that we have on social media. At least it's easier than using a microphone. Some of the challenges that we have on social media are making sure that we stay on topic, because a lot of times we like to, kind of stray off. We like to post pictures of what we had for lunch. We like to talk about, the latest movie that we saw, which is great on your personal page. But if you are the moderator for a chapter page, or the state party page, or something like that, you have to stay on task and make sure that your message is focused on what the party stands for. We have a tendency sometimes to maybe not vet our sources as much as we should. We need to make sure that if we're going to repost an article from another source, say we run across some article about ISIS at the southern border. What is the news source? What is the verification of that news? If it's not something that you can easily vet, if it's not something that comes from a trusted source, you might want to be careful about reposting it. Pushing incorrect or bad information is worse than pushing no information at all. It doesn't serve the party, it doesn't serve your chapter if you start to get the reputation of being a kind of a knee-jerk reporter. If you're pushing information, if you're reposting information that has no bearing on the party itself, you tend to get in trouble. But at the same time, I find that being personal in your posts, not necessarily, being, talking about family issues or anything like that, but if you personalize what you post, or if you take a news story that you're reposting and you put a little personal spin on the comment that you put along with it, then you have a tendency of generating a little bit more reach and bringing more people up to speed. That's pretty much all I have.
We do have a little time left, so what we'd like to do is open this out for audience questions.
Can I make one comment about something Andrew didn't really get to address that is extremely important, I think, in all of us?
Go.
At the very tail end,
Andrew just briefly mentioned about making backups, and I cannot stress how important that is. Even when I came here today, I have my notes for my speech. I even backed these up in case I lost them.
I have two copies of my intro, I'll tell you that.
it's good to keep a local copy and then to keep a remote copy, I'd say, on something like iCloud or Google Drive. I save these to Google Drive in case I lost my paper. I can access them from my phone and have them with me at my fingertips. There's nothing worse than putting 2, 3, 4 hours of work into something and then have storms go roll through the plains of Morris and shoot all the electronics in your house to kingdom come. So it's one of the most important things that's ever mentioned here. It's make your backups, keep a local copy stored, preferably on a DVD-R, DVD-RW, and then on a remote source like iCloud or Google Drive.
Absolutely true. Diana?
I wanted to comment on something that Andrew had said. I think it's really important to remember, I like the idea of having websites. I think it's a great idea. But you have to remember, to use a website, the reader has to do something. He has to actively go and look for your website. The great thing about a newspaper is the article is there in front of the reader, whether he had any idea that he wanted to talk to you, to hear about you at all. That's one of the beauties of it, is that you can get your message in front of readers who would never in a million years look for you. And the idea that people only want to read about D's and R's is wrong. People are interested in third parties, and the other thing is you can talk about an issue that they might be interested in. And then they can figure out in reading it, you can use the word libertarian, which shows A, libertarians exist, and B, what the libertarian position is on this. Or you can do, as I often do, and talk about whatever it is you talk about in the text, and then the word libertarian is in a title below your name. So you don't have to necessarily put it in the text. But this is the power of newspapers, is that it gets the libertarian message out in front of people who are not libertarian, but who might therefore open their minds to what we have to say.
Thank you, Diana. So we're planning to take about 10 minutes-ish for questions, and I saw Daniel, I think, was first.
Diane, writing is a very lonely task, as far as I'm concerned. As I would like to write about, that's my suggestion.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
We do have informal cooperative arrangements. Crystal and I sort of have a deal like this. I have one with my local chapter. Although they failed me this last time. I had to turn the screws on my husband, who took time from work to do this. But I think that's a good idea. And if you're going to do this on a regular basis, I think the first people to hit up would be people in your chapter, just because it builds bonding. And like with our Don't Waste Your Vote brochure, we felt that this was a cooperative effort. It was actually really nice to do it as a chapter. It made it seem like a group effort as opposed to just one person. It's sort of fun and games, and we worked on a template so we could do other pamphlets, just dropping in a different essay portion. So this is something your chapter may want to think about doing, because we did this because there was a dearth of issue-based pamphlets. I looked all over, and there wasn't a whole lot at all. So we thought, okay, we're just going to do it ourselves, and this is something your chapter could do too.
Thank you, Diana. Julie, I think was the next hand I saw.
I have two questions for Paul on Facebook. We do a lot of posting. We have a very active campaign page, and one of the frustrating things for Thomas and I is that some of our posts, one post all of a sudden can have 247 people saw it, and the next one it was 5. Is it? I've heard people say everything to do with algorithms. Is it? Some of it's the subject matter. Some things obviously are just drier, more interesting. So how do you control that? How can you control that better? How people are going to see it?
Well, the thing about that is, yeah, it is based on algorithms. It also has a lot to do with the time of day that you make the post, and just who happens to be online when you make the post. They do offer an option to boost posting, and you can do that. Yeah, it costs money, and that's why they do that. it's a kind of a you pay for your results kind of situation. I find the best way to get around that is to get the most number of people from your chapter or your campaign to share the post. The more it's shared, the more views it gets. The more it's liked, the more views it gets. And then of course also coupling with Twitter and other social media outlets. You can. There are programs out there. What was the one you mentioned just a little bit ago?
Buffer.
Buffer, and then I don't know if TweetDeck's still around.
TweetDeck's still around. They're owned by Twitter now.
Okay. Hootsuite. But those types of programs allow you to couple your Facebook and Twitter pages so that when you post to one, it automatically posts to the other.
Thomas is good with that.
Okay.
He's got that covered. One other question I had is does it help to a great extent to spark interest in a post if you ask a question, so you're kind of bringing in audience participation?
I find that it does most times. Sometimes, depending on the question, some people, they just shy away from it because they really don't have a clear answer. But by engaging your audience directly, and that's what I was trying to touch on with the personalization of your posts, if you can directly address, directly engage the people that you're trying to talk to, it tends to boost it quite a bit, especially if you get people responding and get a dialogue started.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul. Did you have something you wanted to add, Brian?
If you don't mind, really quick.
Just really quick, because I spent a lot of time doing this. Paul said something that was really good. It depends on silly things like the time of day. If you post something really important on a Sunday night, no one's going to pay attention to it. It's going to sit there for 12 hours overnight. It's going to be down in everybody's news feeds. They're not going to pay attention. Same thing goes with Twitter. Twitter is amazing at getting reactions. I never used it before, and in the last 4, 5, 6 months, I've now figured out how to what keywords to use to get spread to other people's things, how to link to other people's comments. That's a great way to spread it. But at the same time, you have to be as original as possible with ideas, because I have like 10 things that I'm ready to share over the next 7, 8, 9 days, and as more information comes out, I kind of save them. And a few of them are really good shotguns that I just want to blast out there, and I know they'll get shares. I got some things that I'm sitting on, and I know we'll get 1,000 or more views and hits on some of these things. But I can't, the term is blow your wad. You don't want to do that. So you do have to time things and spread them out so that you know you can get certain bursts, and then you just have to deal with the 15 people that are going to see something on a Tuesday night where you post about your meeting. But if you can spread it out and you know how to spread those shotgun shells, and you're putting your ammo to best use. That's what I've learned.
And the best way to accomplish that is pay attention to the insights on your page. It'll tell you the times of days that people are viewing your posts, and show you when you get your most traffic.
Can I add just one thing real quick to that?
And I don't know if this is true or not, but the one thing that is true is Facebook is always changing their search algorithm and what gets displayed and not. And I heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, when you post on Facebook, it used to be a sign of vanity to like your own post, but if you do it now, it actually helps you in the algorithm, so don't be afraid to do that. You're not being a total D-bag. You're just promoting yourself better. Just throwing that out there.
Fantastic. I think Chris is next.
So a couple of things to add, and I'd like to hear people's thoughts about that if they have them. One is synergy. The panelists have mostly talked about their particular milieu. Jenny hinted at the need to actually, once you made a video, to then post it on social media. But all of these things can work together. Post an article about an issue on your website. Write, if it's newsworthy, write a press release. If it's just interesting, write a letter to the editor about the article and link to it. If a letter to the editor gets published, if your local newspaper has a website, share that on your Facebook page and tweet about it. Make all these things work together. If you have a podcast, mention it in the podcast. Share your podcast on your Facebook page. Have an RSS feed for it on your website. Make all these things work together to amplify each other. Two more points. One is to develop your own voice. As a letter writer to the editor, have your own voice. If you get a few letters published in a row, people start to know your voice and start to recognize it. Andrew, I think, made the point of having website content, but at the same time you can have multiple different voices, each of which should be consistent within themselves. But if you have a few people contributing content, that can actually develop a more interesting character. And the final thing is it's a group project, social media particularly, is a group project. If I post something on Facebook, I post as, the Champaign County Libertarian Party, then I turn around and switch to myself to like the post. But then where our local group has fallen over is then we need to get everyone else in the group to come over and like it.
Yes.
Because the more people like it, the more likely Facebook is to show it to more people. So get the people in your chapter in the habit of visiting your page daily, weekly, whatever, and just liking everything on it.
And I can just reiterate that over and over again. All of you folks who said you're on Facebook, you should be liking your chapters, you should be liking our candidates, you should be liking the state party, the national party. And when you see something that you like, hey, it don't cost nothing. Click like, because all of those likes help boost those posts. All of those likes get our message out more.
And share it.
Right, and share them. Post comments on them. Anything that you can do that helps build that traffic around the social space is all good. Every click counts.
And as to what he was saying, when we were planning the session, we decided to have Andrew and Paul actually go last because the website and the social media are the more important ways. That's where you're going to get all of your networking to promote the print and the visual arts and the podcasting. And we kind of wanted that to be the last thing you hear because it is the most important thing to remember. And to something else you said, you might have a voice and have something you want to say, but no man is an island. You need help. There's been many times when I've gotten out there trying to, promote my podcast on Facebook and all of this. And when I said in my talk, it's like for every minute of podcasting, it takes you like 4 minutes of editing. Some weeks it seems like it takes a heck of a lot longer to post everything all over your social media. But so if you can get help, by all means do it. Don't stress yourself out over this. I mean, honestly, what I do is a hobby. Like some people got model trains or building ships and bottles or whatever. This is my hobby. This isn't my livelihood. I mean, the only way there's any money in any sort of audio like this is if your last name is either Stern or Limbaugh, and I'm neither of them, thank God. But don't stress yourself out over your hobby. Don't stress yourself over it. Get help and network, and maybe some of the people you'll network with will help you out as well.
And that's one of the reasons why we're here. We have time. We're going to take only one more question, Alex. Yes.
I have a question about Facebook etiquette. You said it wasn't poor form to like your own post.
Not now.
And the other question is it proper? I'm not sure about the Facebook etiquette about posting, like, if you're, like I was published in a print journal, a newspaper, actually in Canada, about concussion and head injuries. Would posting something like that be inappropriate?
It's called promotions.
It's called promotion?
Yeah. You're promoting yourself. That's what your Facebook page is for.
I thought, why am I posting that? And I thought it's just
Because it's
vain.
cool.
So there's several things that
It brings more attention to you.
I taught a national course down in Dallas last week, teaching emergency medicine doctors, but I thought, what's the point of posting that?
Posting.
Post it, because then people will know what you do, and if they got questions, they'll know where to find you, and it helps out your
Vain.
No, it builds credibility, and it.
Yeah, I want to speak to this. I think this is actually really good. Because it says, you were out there as an MD, and you were speaking then authoritatively on medical type and health issues, which are very important before the public right now. So by having this kind of stuff, it shows that you are respected by your peers, you are out there and active, you are not just sitting back retired or some, quack or something like that you are in the mainstream, influencing health issues among doctors, and then you can speak to the public. So I think it gives you enormously more credibility. And I think one of the things that is really nice about what's happening in our party right now is that we are getting candidates who are successful in their professions. This is fantastic. we are reputable people. We're not, people with horns and, purple hair and things like that. We are people to look up to. I think it's great.
Well, there's a lot of things that like right now, next month I'm going to be elected as president of my medical society. I can be president.
Promote the hell out of it.
Promote it.
Promote the hell out of it.
Yeah.
It just helps build your credibility.
Yeah.
And if it makes you
I know
feel
it just
better,
seems odd. Like,
no.
You know what?
Hello, I want everybody to know that I'm the president of the county medical society.
Facebook is about vanity.
exactly.
But people will know with that sort of thing that you're not just one of these people say, oh wow, there's war in Uganda. I better share that post. People will know that you're not a slacktivist. You're actually out there doing something.
And if it makes you feel better, take a little bit of time and talk about how it affects the political landscape and tie it into your campaign. It all works together.
Okay, now another question. If I have
Alex, I know that we're running behind, and
We're really behind.
so how about we do this? Our panelists are going to be here for a little while, so they're eager to answer some more questions for everybody. So we're going to have some opportunities for the rest of the day, and if you're staying tomorrow to talk to them. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for their expertise. And go out there and share the message of liberty.